Well, there you go. The power flickered. I'm not sure if it's related to the weather, what happens, but that happens every once in a while, which means that the four or five things that I was multitasking have all collapsed. So, yeah, that was frustrating. I'm sorry about that, but it happens. And I haven't invested in giant, uninterrupted power supplies yet because they're very expensive. But yeah, if this is a weekly occurrence or a daily occurrence, then obviously I would invest in that. So, but yeah, there was like flicker, flicker, and then I was at another computer and was like, what's going on? Anyways, here's a pretty great relic. It's from World War II. It is by the Signal Corps. It's Army Navy Screen Magazine. And the first segment of it is talked about how angry we are at the Japanese. And it's John Huston. I think he directed it and he narrates it. It's a young John Huston. But it's part of this... Yeah, it's really mad at Japan for Pearl Harbor. And so there's a lot of not appropriate... We don't talk about the Japanese like this anymore, but they were coming off of this anger and the fact that they were in a war with this country that basically provoked war with the United States, awoke the sleeping giant. So that's what this is. And then there's some Jimmy Durante in here too. So here's the Army Navy Screen Magazine. Enjoy.
An officer of the Imperial Japanese Army. He is one of the best educated savages in the world. Tough and tenacious, fanatical, smart. He believes in his emperor beyond all things. He will die for him. But what makes him a formidable enemy is something else. It's training. Some of the most rugged all-around physical training on Earth. These pictures are from a confiscated Japanese motion picture made 5 years before Pearl Harbor. The picture shows how officers who are now fighting us were trained at Japan's West Point, Chikwan Gakko. To this Tokyo school every year come the cream of Japanese youth, about 2,000 students. Each has received training from the day he first walked. At the age of 14, the toughest and healthiest are selected. The survivors take special exams. Perhaps 59 flunk. One passes. He goes on to a junior military academy, and after 2 summers, he moves to the final phase. The first day at Japan's West Point. The CO is welcoming them. We congratulate you, he says. We will train your body and your mind. You will work 17 hours a day, 7 days a week. Nothing must distract you from your mission. Remember the words of your first emperor. We shall spread ourselves all over the world. We shall make the whole world our dominion. For men with a destiny, day begins at the break of dawn. Later in the day, there are more practical exercises. The Japanese can't get enough. They make each jump like they're landing on the face of an American. Jiu-jitsu, their most ballyhooed item. They think it's unbeatable. It isn't. In 10 big matches against American wrestlers, jiu-jitsu experts were flattened like pancakes. But the favorite exercise is bending their backs each morning to Hirohito's holy palace. It develops the spine. In the classroom, there is absolutely no instruction in international relations nor economics. Yet the men who are graduated help rule Japan. Their lack of knowledge about other countries, about the qualities of other people, about production, causes them to take wild gambles. But on other subjects, they are very thorough. Trigonometry, chemistry, history. There's a great emphasis on languages. An Axis partner. English. They once hoped to use it in California. And Russian. A favorite cultural pastime is kendo. Being pounded on the head is supposed to make a man alert. There are other outdoor studies. Signal practice. Surveying. And this class in yelling, to prepare a man for giving commands and to try scaring the hell out of the enemy. Eventually, every Japanese officer candidate must specialize. Many go into cavalry school. Others go into the armored forces. The engineers, whose instructors have spent years rigging bridges in China. A popular course at Japan's West Point is the artillery. But the most glamorous branch of them all is the Imperial Air Forces. Bombardiers have their own private workout over a moving map. Later it was Chungking. Pilots get into the air very early in their training. Later, these men will prepare to die for their emperor in Zeros and Nakajima bombers. All officer candidates are taken on a tactical tour. This jaunt is to a historic battlefield in Manchuria. The instructor tells his men that here their grandfathers, 40 years before, smashed the Russians and vaulted Japan into the big leagues. Holy ground to the Japs, because here was a bloody stepping stone on the divine mission to world conquest. A tactical tour is supposed to give men a smattering of strategy, but for these men it is something more. It is a patriotic hypo, injecting a wild passion for Japan. That is the real purpose of the tactical tour. Returning to school, the officer candidates have only one more hurdle: final field maneuvers. Here in his last test, the officer unwittingly reveals his major weakness. For while it proves he has stamina and skill, it also proves he has more fanaticism than common sense. He is told that leading his platoon into battle, yelling and waving his sword, he is worth 20 rifles. He isn't told he's also a dead duck. Yes, the Japanese officer seems even anxious to die wastefully. Finally, the big day at Chukwangako. The Emperor God himself is on hand. A thrilling moment for the Japanese officer, but only a beginning. He must spend 8 months in the ranks before becoming a lieutenant. His highest base pay will be the equivalent of $21 a month. He must buy his own uniforms and go into debt purchasing a samurai sword. He may take a wife from the special school for army brides. The honor student of the class receives a special scroll, and later will be given a silver watch by the Emperor God. Silver instead of gold, to teach frugality in living. And for preparing his students so well, the CO receives a special gift from Hirohito. Yes, this is a big day. And every graduate dreams that his training will lead him to one end: world domination for Japan. But it's being proven otherwise in the stream of ashes being returned to Tokyo. There is a more fitting end, the dead end, for the sword-waving graduate of Japan's West Point.
Joe. I've kind of hated to break the news to you, chum, knowing you're still in it up to your neck, but take a gander. Yep, honorable discharge. I'm a civilian again. No more pounding those beaches with that cold wind blowing up my tail. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy your company, dog-face. When the brass hats say I've had enough, I'm not gonna beef. Well, looking back, I'd say all in all, the Army was good for me. Of course, those early days had me a little punch-drunk, being dragged out of the privacy of civilian life all at once and going through that induction routine. I felt as bewildered and helpless as a flea on a Mexican hairless. But then the training snapped me out of it, getting the lard off of my hips and developing muscles I hadn't used since I was a young punk and challenged 2 Airedales. I felt a little sorry for the mutts that were being washed out, but, well, it takes men to fight a war. I found out this wasn't for kids when the training got rugged. And when they showed us what we were up against in those Why We Fight pictures, we finally knew what the war was about.
In der Minorität bleiben, weil wir die Welt an Elemente des Kampfes.
That's when you and me teamed up. Sentry duty around the post first and pounding those beaches for 2 years. It was kind of a shock when they shipped you and some of those mutts overseas without me, but I was glad you weren't around later when they told me I'd had enough. As soon as they decided to make me a civilian, they sent me to a camp where the hired help put me through what they called defrosting. You see, the idea is to unlearn all they learned you, to make you like everybody instead of sticking by one guy. You know, everybody's sweetheart. Some of the mutts wouldn't go for the treatment. Oh, they howled, they joined up the fight, and they're gonna keep right on fighting. So I guess they're in uniform for the rest of their lives. I felt the same way at first, but, oh, I don't know. Sleeping in a warm kennel nights, getting nothing but kind words. Finally, I was putty in their hands. My heart was practically busting with love for my fellow man. By now, you could bivouac me with a bevy of cats. So they cleaned me up prettier than a trollop's Pekingese and gave me a final physical that proved I was in even better shape than when I joined up. But here's the payoff, chum. When my master got the news that I was fit and ready to be returned to civilian life, he decided I had a reward coming. You know what it was? 2 months in the mountains on a dude ranch for dogs. Yeah, on the level. A private dude ranch strictly for man's best friend. I could hardly believe my nose. You should get a load of some of the identities here. This is the sheriff. Top man, and oh, brother, does he know it. Here's a nephew of Napoleon. You know, that canine in the cartoons? This jerk insisted on living here. They tell me he thinks he's a cuckoo clock. Practically all the dogs are here for the duration on account of their folks being in uniform. Red belongs to an admiral. Jake's master was captured at Corregidor. Chang has both his master and mistress in uniform and was a sad cookie till he got acquainted with the little number next door. Yeah, they met on a picnic down by the lake and discovered they both liked the same things. And now it's carved for all the world to see. Those picnics are really something. Mostly they're along the lake shore with plenty of swimming and showing off in front of the dames. And of course, a little of that old snuggleroo. Later, there's malted milks and man-of-war burgers. Get a load of that slob next to me. After you've got a good conduct rating, you can go out on your own for a little hike and maybe chase a rabbit or 2. I'll never forget the first time I made this solo trip. Me, all alone in the middle of all this big timber. Oh. Well, good things have to end. And besides, I was kind of anxious to get acquainted again with my folks. So I'm hustled into my private compartment and head for the city. Well, this was the moment I'd looked forward to, but was afraid of. Hoping I wouldn't break down or they wouldn't. You know, I was even worried about being a family dog again. So much time on my hands and nothing but brotherly love in my heart. And then the kid's arm was around me. And this new character was cooing at me. And wham, it was, take care of one of these little numbers. All you gotta do is blink an eye and in flat, they're over the hill. Hey, you, get back where you belong. Yeah, you, on a double. Look at her. The little punk thinks I'm sore. Man, if she only knew how well the Army has defrosted me. Nice feeling, Joe. I hope this is for everybody someday. A place in the sun, free air to breathe, and a decent job to be done. Good luck, Joe. May it be soon for you.
In New York City, the Army-Navy Screen magazine again presents its By Request department.
Fellows, your response to our first By Request program was wonderful. As soon as Army-Navy Screen magazine started playing at camps and different theaters of war, your letters began pouring in. Of course we're pleased, and only sorry that we can't answer every request we've received. Instead, we're going to try to answer the ones we think will interest the most of you. The first request this time is from PFC Thomas Katz, stationed in the South Pacific. PFC Katz is from Brooklyn. He writes that outside of his family and sweetheart, the thing he would like most to see is a lettuce and tomato sandwich with an ice-cold glass of milk to wash it down.
Miss T5 says tomato. We say tomato. Anyway, PFC Cats, there's your sandwich. We realize, of course, that seeing isn't as good as eating, but that's something the Screen magazine can't do much about. We did ask the girl behind the counter to cut the tomato a little thicker, but she gave us an argument. She said if she did, you wouldn't believe it was authentic. There, Private, is your glass of ice-cold milk. The girl? Oh, well, that's our idea. We figured that as long as we couldn't give you the real thing, we'd add a little something of our own. Quite a lettuce and tomato, wouldn't you say, Private?
Sergeant Lowry, stationed in the Caribbean, wants to know why Army and Navy Screen magazine doesn't show some pictures of Marshal Tito, famous Yugoslav patriot.
Here, deep in the mountains of Yugoslavia, and heavily guarded by his loyal partisans, you see the first and only pictures of Marshal Tito ever taken. It was Marshal Tito who organized the whole Yugoslav people after they'd been sold out into a new and powerful state against Hitler and on the side of the United Nations. Knowing nothing about him, he was long called the mystery man of the Balkans. Now the only mystery seems to have been why we didn't know anything about him sooner. Deeply loved by the people he's led, Marshal Tito is one of the...
Lou Amster, seaman first class, somewhere in the Pacific, saw Jimmy Durante in issue number 26 of the Army-Navy Screen magazine, and he wants some more of the same. Well, here's the maestro himself, doing his famous strut away.
Why, in the midst of festivities, I'll get up, and do my strut away. In my cutaway, it's just a hop away, a scram away, and a scram away. And then you skitter right down and you go to on with a twist away. Where's the mic? When you twist away, this way it's a holiday. You know, all over town, they're doing the Susie Q. Why, they did that dance years ago on the Rudy LaPoo, but not my strut away. In my cutaway, why, it's a dance that's gonna gain great renown. You know, a beautiful gal invited me up to her apartment to teach her this dance. I was in the apartment 10 minutes when who walks in? Her husband. Kind of perturbed. He says, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I'm putting on my white tie. I'm putting on my top hat. I'm putting on my top coat to make my getaway, doing the strut away." Did you ever have the feeling that you wanted to do the strut away, the hop away, the spam away, and then you skitter right down and you go to town doing the strut away? Let me hear it. Let me hear it, Major. Hey, hey.
There's your second By Request program, fellows. All you have to do is write in. Remember, Army-Navy Screen Magazine, New York City.
So, yeah, Jimmy Durante, man, big fan. And the thing is, his legacy and people that have been copying him and his mannerisms still probably resonate today with kids who have no idea and people who have no idea who Jimmy Durante is. But I also like the fact that one of the requests was just show me a fresh sandwich. So I have other Screen News Digests, and this is straight up propaganda to build morale. It was shown to servicemen during World War II that were often stationed in different parts of the world, in Europe. Well, I'm not sure, depending on the timing of this, but maybe the UK, and also in Africa and Philippines and different places. And so this was designed to build morale. So the first thing was, like, let's stoke the flames of those fighting the Japanese. And what's interesting is some of that footage and some of that verbiage shows up in a film that I have called My Japan, which was made by the Navy specifically to sell war bonds. And the idea was they had someone who was Asian looking. I don't even know if they applied makeup. I think it was fake. It was what we call yellow face now. That was basically saying, like, basically calling Americans stupid and lazy, and was designed to sell war bonds. Specifically, it's like, look how prepared we are for this fight, and we are going to slaughter your young men. So what can you do about it? Ha ha ha. And it's the same type of just anger towards the Japanese. And I do not support that right now. This was the past, and I do not encourage that type of behavior. So I'm just throwing that disclaimer in there. But let's talk about your teeth, because we need to talk about them.
When you're on a family camping trip, there's lots to see. You get so interested, you don't even notice that it's lunchtime. Rob and Kathy are still thinking about the squirrel. How can it break open those nuts with its teeth? Kathy is glad she doesn't have to crack nuts with her teeth, especially now that one is loose. And she is glad that she has her 20 teeth. She counted them on her birthday. If Kathy didn't have any teeth, her food would have to be especially cut and mashed before she could eat it. Kathy remembers how Mrs. Brown fixes food for her baby. The baby doesn't have all her teeth yet. Babies don't have any teeth at first. When you are about 6 months old, your teeth start to grow through your gums. The first to appear are your front teeth. Back teeth grow in one by one until you have your whole set of baby teeth. As you grow, your jaws become larger. And when you are about 6 years old, your baby teeth aren't big enough any longer. Their roots disappear. The part that you can see gets loose. First one tooth, then another, loosens and comes out. Your permanent teeth grow into these spaces. If you run your tongue over your front teeth, you will feel sharp edge that can cut food into small pieces, just as a knife can cut the apple. Kathy uses both her front teeth and her back teeth to chew the apple well. The back teeth have points and hollows for crushing and grinding food very small. But they're not for cracking nuts, thinks Kathy. The next time you are eating, Notice how your teeth grind food into small pieces that you can swallow easily. Your teeth help you digest your food. That is why good teeth and healthy gums are important. But what if bits of food, especially sweet food, remain around the teeth and in the cracks between them? Germs eat this food, making acids that can cause cavities. Inside the tooth is a nerve, and if the cavity reaches this nerve, a toothache results. You may even lose the tooth. Then, could you chew your food properly? But you can prevent toothaches and cavities. What are some of the ways you take care of your teeth? Good food builds strong teeth. Fresh fruit and vegetables, milk and meat. You need some chewy foods for healthy teeth and gums. When you choose food for health, what is best for the teeth? Should you choose sweets? Why are fruits better? And after eating, what should you always do? That's right. Brush your teeth after eating. Rob and Kathy both know that cavities can't start in strong, clean teeth. Rob shows Kathy how the dentist taught him to brush his teeth. The squirrel seems to enjoy its food. Kathy says that's because it has such healthy teeth. Kathy and Rob are glad they have healthy teeth, too.
So who said this film was shot in Nova Scotia? Because it was made by Crowley Films. So Crowley Films is a Canadian film company who did a lot of really great early films in the 50s. So this one is late in my book regarding Crowley. But yeah, there you go. So I learned that for Encyclopedia Britannica, other film companies would often make films for them and then sell them to EB. So there you go. Thanks everybody for tuning in today and bearing with the power fluctuations and the Japanese race baiting footage from that film. I hope that the Jimmy Durante made up for it and the footage of that beautiful sandwich eaten by beautiful young ladies, if that helped. If you like what you saw, you can buy us coffee at ko-fi.com/avgeeks. You can also go to avgeeks.com and see other things we put online, and you can hit various buttons to show that you like AV Geeks, like the thumbs up button. Is there a like button? Is there a notification button to subscribe? Like, all these things are ways that add up, and I don't know. In a post-apocalyptic world, will it matter? But, I don't know. So just click it anyways. Because what happens is, I think, is that the more people that like it, then the more it gets shared with other new people. And we like new people. We like you, but we like new people too. So we're trying to spread the word. Everybody have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.